Hey y'all, so today I want to talk to you about how works of fiction like comic books, movies, TV shows, and what have you have had an effect on how witches, magicians, pagans, and Wiccans uh, practice their craft in the real world. So, I want to start out by saying when I first started learning about these things, there was no internet, or if there was, I didn't have access to it. Didn't have a computer, no laptop, no personal computer, nothing like that, no smartphones back then. And so my sources of information were books. I had to drive 45 minutes from my home in Great Falls, South Carolina, to the nearest mall, which was the Rock Hill Galleria in South Carolina. And so some of my early influences were Ray Buckland, Scott Cunningham, and of course Silver Ravenwolf. Now this was before the whole backlash against Silver Ravenwolf with the whole, what she did with the Powwow Brockerite book and the Teen Witch books that she did, that she got a lot of backlash about that. But I did like her writing style. I did like her teaching style, how she taught through anecdotes and gave real world examples. That's kind of what I like to do here with these videos. Anyway, so I learned through books, and so my first book of shadows was something like this, one of these cheap Mead notebooks. I still have some of these from my youth or from certain classes that I've taken, and I would come home and I would read from work, and I would read the books that I purchased, and I would make notes or write things in my little Mead journal. And then later I met a woman, one of my first mentors and teachers. She described herself as sometimes she would say she was a pagan high priestess, sometimes she said she was a Wiccan high priestess. And she used these hardback, blank sketchbooks that artists use, like a blank book with no lines in it. And this is a smaller one, a medium-sized one. This is actually my receipt book. I've written and told you about this before. And hers was the bigger size. And what she would do is she would write in her book sometimes, but she would also, before she had a computer, she would type things on her computer, and then she would take those pages and tape them into her book. And then that's something I have continued to do to this day. For example, here's some pages that I taped into my book on the Seals of Solomon. And then I also have some handwritten pages here. This is a page on how to use magic squares, and as you can see, it's handwritten. And I do still have a couple of blank pages toward the end of this book to fill up, and I got a couple of things that I've typed out, like, hold on, here is a spell I want to add to the book. Anyway, and then I also wanted to show you, this is something I still do today. This is one of my astrology journals where I did not have time. So I wrote it all up on the computer, printed it out, and then I just taped it into this binder. And I used not a binder, a spiral notebook, because a lot of times when I'm writing, it's easier to flip it like this and have more room. Then let's think, I looked it up before I started this video, 1998. 1998, in October of that year, Charmed came out. Now, up until that time, everybody I knew who practiced some form of magic, they had a book like this. It was a blank book or a notebook, and they hand wrote in it. When Charmed came out, everybody wanted the big, huge book with the calligraphy and the artwork, and not everybody had the talent or the time to do that. And then you started people doing replicas and stuff. And me, I upgraded to something like this. Is a book that I created. I just took a 3-ring binder and wrapped it in leather and put this symbol on the front. And this became my book. This is the best I could do with it. And what I did was I transcribed a lot of my work from my handwriting journals and used a word processor to design pages. And I'm not going to go through this book and show you any pages, but here is a cover page I did a long time ago. So that'll give you kind of an idea. So that's how, Charmed kind of influenced how a lot of modern Wiccans and pagans practiced their craft. Everybody wanted the big book with the artwork in it. And then later on, Harry Potter came along, and then suddenly everybody wanted the little Harry Potter wand, and they didn't look anything like the wands I had seen before. My wand was like just a stick that I had gotten from a fallen branch, and I what do you call it? I took the bark off of it and sanded it and sanded down the knobs and got it kind of straight and shellacked it and what have you. And then later on, someone taught me how to tip your wand with crystals, and I had a couple of crystal tip wands. But then, like I said, Harry Potter came along. All of a sudden, everybody wanted the little Harry Potter wand, and I saw a lot of people who identified as witches and Wiccans using those wands in their craft. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just focusing on how works of fiction influenced real world practices. And so I kind of racked my brain to think of something that I personally adopted into my practices. And I got to thinking about when The Craft came out, the original one, not the Legacy, with Fairuza Balk or whatever her name is. And I can't remember what year that came out, and I didn't look it up. But there is a scene in that movie where the 4 girls go into the occult shop. And there's the woman in there, which is so unrealistic. This occult shop, you walk in and there's candles burning everywhere. If you did that today, the fire marshal would shut you down. But again, it's a movie. Anyway, so this woman's in there. She sees the girls come in. When we first see her, I believe the actress's name is Assumpta Serna. They show her working on a candle, and up until that time, I was influenced by Scott Cunningham, and he would teach people to sort of make this hand gesture like this with your fingers, but then put it this way. And then you would put your candle inside that little triangle that you made with your fingers. And you would just sort of pull up energy, visualizing it coming down, put it into that triangle of energy that you made, and then visualize that energy going into the candle. And that's how you would charge your candle. In Hoodoo, they teach you, like with a vigil candle, you grasp it with one hand, and you put your palm over the top and you make your prayer, then you sort of knock it 3 times on a piece of wood. But going back to this thing, in this thing, it shows her working on a candle, and I may have to stand up to do this to show you. So she has this candle here, and she does this thing where she takes her fingers like this, and she makes 3 circles around the candle with her fingers, and then she sort of does this hand motion here. And I saw that, and it really kind of struck me. I liked that hand gesture, and so I started doing that myself when I would charge candles for magic, and it really worked for me. So that is something I personally adopted from a work of fiction into my practices. Now today, if you're watching this in the future, it is May 1st, 2021. I just realized that it's the Wiccan or Pagan Festival of Beltane, or May Day. Today we have TV shows like WandaVision, and we got Doctor Strange coming out, and I've noticed a lot of people in the magical community getting into hand gestures like Doctor Strange and Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, which there's nothing wrong with that. There is a basis in reality for certain hand gestures, like the fig sign and whatnot, to protect you from the evil eye. So I just kind of see that as an extension growing out of that. Now I do know that I did watch WandaVision. There's a lot of talk of chaos magic, and for those of you who only watch the MCU, that is a legitimate tradition in the real world, which basically people just sort of they say things like hacking reality, or they take a little bit from here and a little bit from there. It's sort of an eclecticism, and it's kind of on the edge, out there type kind of magic. It doesn't really have anything to do with evil. It's just sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to it. One of my favorite books, The Lollipop Shoes, there's a character in it who created her own sigil system, and it's a kind of chaos magic. But I digest, as my friend says. Anyway, so my question for you as I wrap up this video, is there something you saw or read in a work of fiction that you incorporated into your practices, and was it or was it not successful for you? Anyway, leave your comments in the comment section of this video, and don't forget to check out my Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/Carolina Dean. I'm posting a lot of content on there. As of today, I have posts scheduled all the way up till the last week of May, and by the end of this weekend, I will have the entire month of May pre-scheduled with lots of content on the tarot, astrology. I'm beginning my series on what I'm calling the Stones of Light, and it's specific stones that are used in different magical traditions, like the Urim and Thummim in Jewish mythology, the Otane of Santeria, the Sassoon of South American folk magic, the Divinity Stone in Powwow Brockerai, and lots of other things. I'll be posting that series at the rate of one a week, beginning in May. I believe the first article goes out this Thursday. Anyway, I've ran on long enough. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and see you next time.